Hello and welcome to the Healed Approach podcast. I am your host, Rebecca Heald, and I am here to lead the revolution in workplace wellbeing. On this podcast, you can expect to hear from people who have turned their personal trials into professional triumphs. This isn't a podcast that is about your run-of-the-mill leadership and wellbeing. You're going to hear from trailblazers, visionaries, and catalysts for change, because true wellbeing and leadership goes beyond corporate jargon. It's about embracing vulnerability, empathy, and resilience. So you're going to hear some really open, honest, and raw perspectives on leadership and wellbeing in the workplace. So I hope you're ready for the revolution, and I really hope that you enjoy the show. And welcome to this week's episode of the podcast, of the Healed Approach podcast. Today I am joined by Tanya Patel. Welcome, Tanya, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rebecca, for having me on.
So Tanya is a CEO and founder of Chapter London and Lily and Ribbon. But before I go too much into it, I'm going to let Tanya talk about her journey and what Chapter London and Lily Ribbon are all about and where it all came from. So go for it, Tanya.
Of course. So Chapter London and Lily and Ribbon, I was a part of the corporate world for a long time, so 14 years or so. And when I was a young girl, sort of in my year 3, year 4, I was always quite entrepreneurial, always loved elements of business, always really curious in terms of what business was all about. So, I invented my own perfume with my own freshly picked flowers. It stank, so never do that again. I used to, sell sweets at tuck shops, little basic things, and I really embraced the internet quite early. So something quite interesting that I did when I was younger is buy coloured contact lenses when the trend was on, and sell them to all my friends with a markup of £2. That was my claim to fame. But really, from a young age, I was really curious about business. Mm-hmm. But what I realised is that it would be great to have an understanding from a corporate as to how things are done. And I thought, I would go and sort of work with some businesses, and then I would go and launch my own. But what I found in that, Rebecca, was I loved it. And I carried on staying there. So in terms of where my journey began, at the age of 14 or so, I was a Saturday girl for Arcadia store. While I was selling store credit cards, which is probably an average story for a normal 14-year-old girl, a random person came to the till and they said, "Oh, you're really good at selling the store card. Would you be interested in actually working for HSBC?"
No way.
Yeah, literally, I was selling the store credit card at the time. And they said, "We've got a call centre down the road if you'd like to come and interview." But they didn't realise I was 15 at the time. And I think that you had to be 16 to sell any financial product. So they gave me a few months of work experience there. And then as soon as I hit 16, I was able to be a business executive for HSBC. Absolutely loved it. And ironically, I was a small business consultant or small business executive, which was amazing. I mean, I can reflect back on it now, but I could really hear in customers' voices, business owners' voices, how they were managing businesses, whether it was marketing budgets, finances, and how hard it actually was. But it gave me a bit of, actually, I'm really helping them as, support their business, improve their business, support them with lending so they could achieve their dreams. So that always stood at the back of my head. And then you're probably wondering, how did I get from a bank to Chapter?
Yes.
So that's a path in itself. So I had a conversation with my mom and I said, "Look, I'm from a single parent family. Education is super, super important in our household. So I said to my mum, I'd actually prefer to just go straight into business and not go and do my degree. There was an apprenticeship scheme at HSBC. I was really interested in doing that. And my mum said to me, I would rather you have education as a backup option, just in case your entrepreneurial journey doesn't go to plan. I still think you're quite young, and I feel like you might be risking your life to become an entrepreneur. So go and do your degree. And if you still
I still get told that. I still get told that by my mum now. Anyway, go
yeah, I think I probably do too, to be honest. I think I had the same conversation in December. But
yes.
yeah, so she literally was like, look, and she was putting the bread on the table at the time. So I kind of had to conform an element as well. If you still feel the same, then absolutely go and start your own business afterwards. But you know what? I went and studied business and human psychology at Aston University. Absolutely loved my course. And I realised that I would really benefit from working with big teams. I really thrive from having great people around me. And as much as I thought I was an entrepreneur back in the day, I feel like I've got a lot to learn with great role models, inspirational figures in my life. So then I just left the entrepreneur thing at the side, took the stability, took the corporate job, had two options of corporate jobs. And again, you might say, why did you choose one over the other? I had an investment bank opportunity and I had a retail opportunity to go and be a manager at Marks and Spencer. And I chose Marks and Spencer because I just felt like they were going to give me development beforehand. So I looked at development rather than finances. Whether that was the right decision or not, we'll never know. But it feels from my heart like it was, because I really learn from the best leaders around me. I've got a really big smile on my face because everything I do on a daily basis is what I've learned over the last 14 years. And then what I've done is just added my own personality to it. So it's then become what it is. And I was actually in a fantastic place with Marks and Spencer. My career was going from strength to strength. I'd won a few national awards. And I knew where I was going. And then I became a mother. And it completely changed my perspective on things, and the things that I took for granted. I the business trips, the working long hours, which I did off my own accord, they didn't feel achievable or attainable anymore, and I just wanted to have those extra moments with my son that I felt that I wasn't having when I was leaving the house at 6:45, getting on that tube, and coming back home when my little boy was asleep. I thought I need to change something and do something about it. So yeah, and then while I was pregnant at the time, I realized that there was a big need for maternity fashion or maternity wear. So I designed a few maternity items of clothing. And it just went from step by step. I launched with approximately 10 products, and then the portfolio grew to around 60. And
Amazing.
I found my happy place. And I also, you know, I was able, there's never a balance, and it would be great to talk to you about that later. But I felt like I could be a mum and a business owner at the same time. But there's been lots of learnings after that. And then Lily and Ribbon has gone from strength to strength, both from a brand and from a design perspective. But I still felt like there was something missing. And I then sort of established some of the problems that we had in UK retail, the way in which we manage logistics and that kind of thing, landfill with clothing. And I just thought, actually, I've got more to give. So, why not launch Chapter, which is the next chapter also of my life.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah, and here we are today. So, I've got a maternity brand that I'm really proud of, and it's taught me so much. But Chapter really is the next part of me and who I am as an entrepreneur and as a being, taking the next step forward in women's wear fashion.
So can you tell people a little bit more about Chapter?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chapter is a female-led women's wear brand. We make everything in England, which is amazing for us because we can really understand and connect with the customers, but also have a really quick supply chain. We really believe, and I believe that once my body shape changed so much after giving birth, whether it was weight, whether it was shape, whatever that is, I feel like that area or that genre changes quite a lot, between the age of
Yeah.
30 to 40. So what I wanted to do is have and develop a capsule collection initially for women to really, you know, pay respect to their new bodies and their newfound curves. Some people keep their curves, some people don't, but it's really appreciating the female form for what it is. So that's kind of where chapter came about in terms of my vision, but also I was really struggling to find great quality clothing at a
Yeah.
reasonable price. I didn't want to pay, and this is probably totally selfish as to why I started the brand, but I didn't want to pay £300 for a dress that I only wore 4 times a year. But I also wanted to keep it attainable so that we're doing everything we can to really support the UK economy, which is so important to me because, this is where I've been brought up and grown. So it's about getting the balance right and being as reasonable as possible, but also the how do I say this, the underlying objective of Chapter London is to really support women embrace their confidence through color, style, and fabric. And if I can do that through a dress, then that's a tick in my box.
Yeah, I do love that, because I've spoken about quite openly about kind of how I started out in my business, and it was a lot around coaching women, because I had an eating disorder when I was younger, so obviously body image, trying to fit in while also trying to be a leader, with an eating disorder, was it was just so draining, and when I look back, there's no way I could have carried on and set up the business and achieved what I've achieved if I hadn't healed my relationship with food and my body. So I absolutely love when people are talking more about this, because I think so many women and young girls and boys as well feel like, fashion, there's just we've got to fit in, we've got to fit into what this idea of fashion is. So to bring something to the market that is a bit different, and it's like, hang on a minute here, I'm not the only one who's struggling, to identify with these clothes right now, because I'm now in my 30s, my 40s, I've got children. So, yeah, I think it's incredibly empowering for women. And is that what you found?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we found is that, well, personally, what I found is I was a different size in every single shop. So that really affected my confidence. So I ended up being a size 8 in one shop and a size 12 in the other.
Oh,
And
God,
my
yeah.
my body was exactly the same as it was the day before. Um, and I really struggled with the lack of fabric in a lot of clothing. Now, I know how hard it is to produce clothing, and I know that everybody has to look at costings, and that 2 inches does make a really big difference. But what I wanted to do is just develop something that people can carry on wearing. So I don't want to be the next fashionista that goes on the catwalk. And I still don't. And I love fashion, but I still don't want to do that. I think for me it's about making sure that you've got some staple wardrobe pieces that give you a little bit of color, a bit of print in your life that make you feel fabulous. And also for it to be a bit of a conversation starter for you. So what I found is after um going to networking events or going to parties, you need a nice icebreaker. And after motherhood, my only icebreaker really was, how old my children were.
Yes.
And what this did, and I still get emails about this to this day, is if we've got a unique print, you can really to start talking about what that is, where it's from, and it's a bit of, I like to call it a bit of dopamine dressing, in terms of let's inject that color, let's inject that vibrancy. And I feel like then you are then, if it's the right place, right product for you, then you're really confident in your own skin. And I think that's really important for me. What I found is that era between not then finding where to shop was really hard. So after I'd had the kids, I just didn't know where I belonged per se, because my fashion taste did change a lot, my body shape did change a lot. Um, and I think now more than ever, there's some great brands to choose from. However, it really is about then finding your favorite
Yeah.
and sticking to it. And that's really, really important to me. And that's what we found with our customers now, is that they're not just customers, they're family, because they know how we work, they know how we choose prints, we know how to dress their silhouette. And that could be, and I think what was really interesting is some of our photo shoots recently, you could be a size 8 or a size 20, you will feel just as good in our dress, because what we've done, for example, with one of our dresses, the waistband. So if you're bustier, it still looks fabulous because it cinches you in at the waist. And if you're not, the V-neck or the wrap look just gives you a bit more voluptuous, gives you a bit more of a statement in terms of your figure. So I think that's really nice, is that we're trying to create designs that are not just perfect for one, like you said, streamlined what a fashionable body shape should be. It's really important to me that it fits all of us together as a community.
I love that. I really do love that idea of, your business being a community and you always being like friends. And so I think that's really important as well, because we go back to people, don't we, that we connect with and that we feel have got us and that understand us.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more with, I love how you said, how you made the point as well, that size doesn't matter, and I think this is super, super important, is that a lot of the time we will get so hung up on, and we will judge people by size, shape, and it needs to not happen, and we can feel just as good as anybody as long as we're wearing clothes that fit well, that feel nice, like you say, that a conversation starts. They do, unfortunately we are living in a world where looking good makes us feel good. Okay, I say unfortunately, is it? I don't know, because I do think there is there's too much emphasis on, because who we are is not defined by what we look like. However, for me, definitely, I know that I will hold myself better if I feel dressed well, and I feel like I'm wearing clothes that feel good. And I think that's the same and I think this is super important for women. It's super important for women, in order to feel the best that they can be, and in order to walk into a room and sell themselves, because it's their brand, isn't it? We are our brand. But I
Yeah,
do
it's
want to go back as well, sorry, because you've touched on a couple of things there and I don't want to lose it, because you've mentioned about, kind of things change and our identity kind of changes when we have children. And you also mentioned this idea of the elusive balance. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, of course. So let's just touch on identity super quickly. So I feel, and I've read a few quotes in the past as well, is that we do change, our physiology, our chemical, balance, all changes once we become mothers per se. And I feel like, and you and I maybe talked about it sort of in the reels before, but as a mother, when you become in charge of somebody else, that ownership, that requirement, that neediness of supporting them through their journey as well is a big pressure. So I keep hearing this, you have to put your own you know mask on before you look after your child. I don't know how to say it, so you might need to edit this out, but what do you say? I forgot the quote
Isn't it,
now.
put your own face mask on first?
Yeah, that's it, right? So the analogy of putting your own face mask on first. Now, I used to hate this, but I kind of get it, because what I started to do when I was a mum, I was doting and just completely committed on their needs. And I realized that, my baby would be dressed amazingly. He would have had 2 baths in the day. Yet when my husband walked through the door, my baby was immaculate, but I don't think I was. And I think it just gave me feedback on myself. Like, I just wanted to be the best version of myself. as well as, having, clean washed kids. And as deep as that sounds, and I think I feel like, although there's no motherhood manual, a lot of the things are really routine and structure based. And if you're like me, and I thrive off, spontaneity and, daily rigmarole of enjoyment and, spontaneity of life, motherhood is really hard, and you can lose yourself in the routine of what motherhood is, because it's very similar every day. Yes, children change, they go through growths, but actually the day to day was very samey, and I struggled with samey, and therefore I struggled with my identity in that respect. But also those decisions, and every mother has to make decisions, as a unit with their partner, not with their partner, but as to what works for your dynamic. And that's really important, to then save a little bit of sanity for yourself, because what I've seen so many mothers doing, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, is they keep putting their children first, but then they look back and it's 10 years, and I'm like, I wish I just did this, or I wish I just did that. And that kind of leads us nicely into sort of the balance aspect that you were talking about. And I've had this question so many times now, Rebecca: how do you balance it? I don't think I do. I think I don't think the balance exists. And I feel bad for even breaking that notion of having a work-life balance. I think it's just, do you?
No, I talk about this all the time. I talk about this when I go into businesses. I talk about it as a single parent running a business. Balance does not exist. It does not exist in this modern day world. And balance is, it's such a black and white term that has no grey in the middle. For me, it's always about negotiation. It's constantly about negotiating. Every day, every hour, it's about renegotiating what matters most. So, for example, yesterday, I think it was Monday actually, I was feeling a bit run down. I felt like I needed to take some time for myself. So yesterday morning, which was Tuesday, I was like, right, I'm going to clear my diary this afternoon. And thank you, because you rearranged for me, Tanya. Because I just thought, if I don't find some balance today, or give myself some intentional rest today, everything's going to go out the window. The shit is going to hit the fan. My kids are going to come home, and then I felt so much better. Like, I remember in the morning, I was struggling in the morning with the kids. I was struggling to get ready. I was really, and I just like, mum's just, she's just a bit tired. I had some time to myself in the afternoon. I picked my kids up. We're singing in the car. We're having a great time. And in the past, I never would have done that, because it would have been like, I can't just change my day just like that. I can't just renegotiate my priorities. But this is what it is. It's not about balance. It's about dynamically risk assessing what's going on in your life every day, and then taking action accordingly.
Yeah. And aligning it to your values as well. I feel like that's super important, because you've hit the nail on the head. And what there's a really amazing fact that we do sort of 90% of the admin of the household. Well, we've got, both of us have got 2 boys. Yeah, exactly. Well, this is it. So we've both got boys, and the energy levels of toddlers and, primary school children is nothing like I thought it was going to be. They are 2 full-time jobs in itself. I always laugh with my husband. I would rather go and pitch for business sometimes than be in a whole day, and I'll be really honest with you. I love that side. So I think for me, and maybe even you, it's about, like you said, reprioritizing, and just knowing what means a lot to you, and just giving yourself a break. Whether that's, like you said, an intentional rest, but also, we are our own worst critic. And I've been listening to so many, sort of audiobooks, and reading a lot about sort of the negative voice sometimes that comes within when you're pressured and you've got a lot of things going on. And we have to advocate for ourselves, and, be kind to ourselves. I mean, women talk to themselves. They have to support what's going on within their mind in terms of positivity and energy. And if you are a little bit slumped, I can't blame you. You've been running after 2 kids. you know, 7 days a week. We do all of the dinner services if we don't have the help. You know, when we do get to sit down, we're depleted anyway. So really, it's about just
Yeah.
being kind to yourself. And I talk a lot about, I've just done a podcast recently on Women of the Future. We talk a lot about be kind, be collaborative, but also be kind to yourself. Don't forget yourself, because
That's where it
it
all
took me 7
starts.
years to realize that.
That's where it all starts, you know, being kind to yourself. And I've spoken before about how it took me going through my divorce for me to realize that I had to put myself first. This whole put your own mask on first kind of started to ring true, because I remember trying to get support for my kids because they'd been through so much trauma. They'd seen this, all of this domestic abuse. They'd seen their dad abuse their mum, abuse them. And I was just desperate to make them okay, because I was like, that's why I left. That's why I walked away from their dad, because it was like, I need those boys to know that's not what life is about. That's not how men should treat women. That's not how women should, you know, accept treatment, etc. And so I was like, I need, my boys need counselling. I need help with my boys. I need them to, you know, but everybody's like, Rebecca, and whoever I spoke to was, Rebecca, you need to focus on you first. I was like, I'll sort myself out once my kids are okay. But I learned very quickly that it was the other way round, you know, and I had to work on myself. I had to sort myself out and get my shit together, which was the hardest thing. It's almost like the easier thing was to be like, no, my kids need to be okay. I need to get my kids counselling. I need help for my kids. But actually I had to face the reality, and I had to do the work on myself, which took a hell of a lot longer than I thought it
Yeah.
would. It's still an ongoing journey, but yeah, I absolutely, and this bit about kindness, being kind to yourself, so important, yet so simple, yet so difficult.
Yeah. And I don't think there's ever going to be a balance. And I think women in
Yeah,
business and mothers should be not even asked the question, because I don't think they can deliver the right answer. And what I find, even in corporate, or, you know, even being a business owner, the questions I get about, do I regret having a business, or the balance, or the children, or do I feel like they're missing out? These are the decisions we've made. This is the decision that I've made, and I'm proud of it, and I just want to embrace that. And I feel
yeah,
like, you know, we have the capability to do that, and why not? We can be what we want to be. But what I don't understand is, you know, do males get those questions? And I think it's about really changing the narrative on how women are perceived in business. We're never the weaker party. Yeah, at times it's perceived like that. Can you manage motherhood and business together? Yes, but I was speaking to a mentor recently, you know, a lady called Pinky Lalani, who, we were just talking about progress, and my progress is still progress.
yeah.
But I can just slow it down a little bit, because I want to not miss the moment with my boys.
And one thing I want to say, and absolutely, you know, you should only kind of judge your progress or anything by your own standards, okay, not by anybody else's. But I also think it's really important to point out here that we still have a long way to go in the workplace for women to, you know, to feel, I suppose, that they can do it all, because we can do it all. And I'm not saying that that means that we have everything all at the same time. No, there is always this negotiation. There is always this, you know, some kind of compromise. But I do think that one of the big things that is still holding us back is the culture in the workplace. I would say 90% of the female entrepreneurs that I've had on this podcast set up their businesses because they didn't feel that they could juggle motherhood alongside working for a corporate, you know. And I still think that this is where we've got a
Frozen,
long way to
sorry.
go. We need to change the attitudes and the processes and the you know, kind of the processes and the expectations and everything within an organization for women to feel that they can thrive within that.
Absolutely agree with you on that. I mean, I was really lucky. I had some great male leaders that were able to support me on the journey when I was a young mum. Um, you know, they just said to me, "You're really good at your job. You do you. If you need to come in a bit later because you need to drop your child off, fine. Um, if you need to support your, work from home one day, because you're having, because your child's not very well or your endometriosis is triggering, you do you. We know that you get the job done to the standard." But there are so many people out there that haven't had that opportunity, because a lot of the time it's like you said, it's either the workplace don't want everybody to work from home and don't want to give the autonomy, or that you're required to be there at certain times. I think, I know there's a big fact in terms of how much women are worth in the economy, but there is this element now, I feel, in the next 10 to 20 years where women will really embrace and support even the UK economy per se by starting businesses, asking for better flexibility,
Yeah.
and all of these things. And I think it's an entity in ourselves. I mean, I was really blessed. I was able to be, have that flex in my job. But I know it isn't the case for many. What I am, really impressed with at the moment is, Anna Whitehouse is doing so much work right now on flex appeal and, flexible working. And I've sort of followed her journey in the last 8 years, and I really respect what she's doing. But we are still a long, long away in terms of how much autonomy we can get and how we can really embrace so that the workplace works for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we're here and we're championing it. And the more we talk about it and we're honest about things, the better. So before we wrap it up, I've just got one last question to ask you, if that's okay.
Of course.
I'd love to ask you, so you've had such a journey and you've shared your story really openly with us. Thank you. But what is the one most important thing that you've learned about yourself on your journey?
Great question. The best thing I've learned about myself is you cannot be good at everything, and you need to really harness on what you're good at and your strengths, and you need to let the other bit go. Either you find strength in other people, so if it's business, so get them to support you, and either employ them in those roles, or work out what that is. But you can't achieve everything at all times, and it's okay to just have a break, self-reflect, and carry on. I think the advice I would give to my younger self, and what I've really learned, is that you sometimes think that things aren't going to help you in the future, or it's not going to be a part of your experience, but I feel like a big thing for me is I found what I'm good at, what I know I'm good at. And then now it's about really working with my team, taking them on the journey with me so that we're stronger together, rather than me, trying to achieve things on my own. I'll only go so far. So it's really about taking the whole journey with, taking all the team, all the journey with you. And it makes it more fun as well. Entrepreneurship and motherhood can be so lonely. Um, and another thing I would love to say, and I probably knew it already, is everybody will help if you're honest about what you're struggling with. I don't think many people, I mean, yeah, I've had cases where people are like, no, I really can't help. Fine. But everybody will help if you ask in the right way. And
It's a strength.
that's really important to me. But I know we talk a lot about but it's also checking in. Checking in with your friends and family, is really, really important, because then, if they are having a bad time, or you're having a bad time, or something's not working in terms of your low key or someone else's, you're always there to then support. And that's really important to me, not only for our generation, but also to inspire that next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in a world where everything's online and we've become quite isolated. But no, that's super, super important. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your inspirational journey and for everything that you're doing, for business, for the UK economy, for women, so inspiring. And I know you've got an offer for my listeners. So can you let people know where they can find you and what exciting offer you've got for them?
Of course. So you can find us on www.chapter.london. That's our own clothing site. We've got an amazing offer for you. So we are offering till the end of April a £10 off voucher for all your customers and all your podcast listeners. And that offer is Healed 10. So if you could, log that in wherever you need to, or write that wherever you need to. And it's been such a pleasure, joining you on this podcast. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for giving me the opportunity.
No, thank you. Thank you for being open to the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it, and hopefully we will stay in touch, and we will hopefully have you back on the podcast in the future to talk more about what you are achieving. So thank you so much. Thank you for everybody who is listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you do go check Tanya out, check out the wonderful offer as well. And also make sure that you leave us a 5-star review and you do share this podcast with as many people as you think will benefit from it, because the more that we can reach, the better. So thank you so much once again, Tanya. Take care, and I will see you here next time.
Thank you so much. Take care.
And that's a wrap. I really hope that you have enjoyed this episode, and if you have, please make sure that you leave us a 5-star review and that you share it with your audience, your friends, your colleagues, because the more people that we can reach on this leadership and wellbeing revolution, the better. We are here to create change. Make sure that you are part of that. Once again, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you here next time.